Hello, welcome to Drunk Girls Who Read, a podcast where we trap ourselves inside on the hottest day of the year so far to discuss children's books. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Charlie, and we're two 30-somethings combining, hopefully, intelligent literary criticism with drunken chaos.
We're reading The Hunger Games, and in today's episode, we're reading chapters 4 and 5.
So grab a drink, crack open your book, and read along with us. Hello.
Oh, good. We're continuing the tradition of doing stupid accents for hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a TikTok once from an American that was like, what do British people do when they want to do silly accents? Because American people just do British. And I was like, we have a whole range of options. If you can do a northern accent.
Yeah.
You can slip into a bit of Scots or Welsh. I often pull out American. My one I can do, but I know I'm bad at it, is Valley Girl.
Yeah. I frequently will do the Suffolk my mother doors.
Yeah. You can always slip into an over-the-top British accent. So
Yeah.
we've got plenty of options for silly accents.
It's a whole roster.
Yeah,
really.
genuinely.
Whereas Americans just do the same old British accents. Never British.
No, I'm sure they're better at the in-American accents, which I'm so bad at telling the difference between. In the same way that I'm sure most Americans and other countries are bad at telling how different English accents can be down to a 20-mile radius.
Yeah.
How are you? Do we start with that? Yes.
Yes, we do.
Are you?
You know what, you know that thing when it's like, you want to say how you are, but you don't want to show off and make everyone feel really jealous?
Sure.
I don't want to seem like I'm flexing on everyone.
No, go for it. I think it makes people happy when people are happy, if that's what you're about to say.
Well, guess what?
What?
I achieved today.
Happiness?
I opened a packet of bacon using the actual tab.
That's not... I don't believe you.
I did. It happened.
That doesn't happen. That falafel, you can't open that by using the actual tab.
I should. I'm regretting now not documenting this. I should have taken a photo. Do you want me to dig the packet out of the bin?
Yeah, when we go downstairs, I would like that.
I genuinely might. It did, I will say, I opened it by the tab and then it did tear on one side. So you might not believe me. You might think I slit one side and then somehow peeled the tab off. But why would I lie? Is the question. Anyway, I really hope that that's not made anyone feel bad about the fact that they haven't achieved what I have achieved.
Cute.
How are you?
I was going to give a real answer, so now I seem like I'm going way too into this and I should come up with something weird.
The thing is, it's not even a joke answer.
No,
I'm
the
fucking
joy
delighted about this.
The joy that would bring. I was going to turn it into a joke that the podcast, launching this podcast, this podcast that you're listening to, launching that went really well. So the universe decided to slap me down slightly. The universe went, fuck off.
I have this really, and it's been illness, innit? But this really horrible thing where I don't believe that life can ever be really good for too long. So I actually get really stressed out and anxious when life is good because I'm like, something bad is about to happen. And I wish I could say, oh, that's just mental. No, it's not. It's fact. It always happens. Whenever life is going a little too good, something horrific happens.
Yeah, the universe decided to slap me down slightly. Now, is it the worst slap down? No, I'm fine. It's just my actual job, not this job, decided to take a slight forked path into something I didn't expect. And that's been what I'm dealing with for the last 2 weeks. I've been dealing with it by drinking wine and yelling after work. And generally just bemoaning people in I sent you a 12-minute voice note, which I'm sure you enjoyed. It was like a podcast.
No, I did it because I was cooking at the time, so it was quite good actually. So what you're saying is you could really use a win right now. A win like opening a packet of bacon using the actual tab.
Yeah, but the weather is a win, and I walked to yours today, and that was really glorious. I walked without a jacket. I know.
I'm so glad it's walking weather. It has just occurred to me that the bacon packet thing might actually not translate internationally. I don't know how other countries packet their bacon. In the UK, there's supposed to be a tab you open it with. Not a single soul on the planet until today has ever actually successfully used the tab. You have to get a knife and stab it. It does not work. But today I was the first person that's ever actually done it. So that's just a little bit of context.
But yeah, as we are British, the weather is good and therefore we are happy because the weather is good for the first time in this year because that's how seasons work. And what that means is that London has become a different place because the first hint of sun, London, everyone's suddenly happy. People talk to you in shops. The parks are filled with genuinely this city changes within a day. It's wild.
Yeah, it really does. London in the sun is the best city in the world.
Yeah.
And then in the winter, it's a miserable hellhole.
Miserable hellhole where you think, why did I ever move here?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how I am. What are you reading? I don't know why I did that transition so weirdly. What are you reading?
I am reading, and actually the reason that I'm reading this is actually Hunger Games related. Incredible. I mean, it's a tangentially.
Gently.
A little bit of context. My brain is broken today. I was just trying to discuss the cast of the original Hunger Games, and could I remember anyone's name? Could I fuck?
It was a really infuriating conversation because she wasn't just talking about one actor. It was like a series of actors, and everyone she went thingy, and I went not helpful.
And just my brain was breaking. I couldn't remember what order you said Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I would just go Phil. Like, yeah. But yeah, so apologies. This is going to be a chaotic recording session. My brain is a little bit broken. But anyway, so there is an actor I really, really love. And he was actually the actor who voiced the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes audiobook. And he does a fantastic job of narrating Snow. He does like sexy villain voice, like really, really well. Like this like sinister, obsessive kind of thing. And, you know, everyone's probably familiar with the Netflix show You. I did not realize those were books first. And then I found out because... You know when you just end up like reading someone's Wikipedia page? I can't remember how.
Time. I do it all. Charlie, I was reading the Wikipedia page about the French Revolution the other day.
Yeah.
I need to explain that. That's just a thing I did.
Yeah, so I was reading this guy's. He's also an actor in like another thing that I love. But yeah, I was reading his Wikipedia page the other day and found out that he voices the audiobook for You. And I was like, that's perfect. It's such a similar character, this like evil, obsessive character. I was like, absolutely, like I now need to read that. Like, I will admit the TV show is a guilty pleasure of mine. It's awful. I love it. I'm so excited for the next and last season to come out.
There's another one?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
You know?
At this point it's so ridiculous and beyond belief. So yeah, that immediately just rocketed to the front of my reading list. So yeah, I've been audiobooking it. Listen to this guy's voice. He does a fantastic job of the audiobook. It is slightly horrifying that his voice is almost identical to a friend of mine that I know quite well. The friend is also a J name, who is also really pretentious about books and music, like the character is, to the point that I have started to merge my friend and the character in my mind, to the point that the friend complained to me the other day about someone, and my first thought was, why doesn't he just murder them? And then I was like, because he's not actually the book character.
That's worrying.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, I've been reading the Book of You. I will say
the Book of You sounds worrying when you phrase it like that.
It's one of those
it sounds like you're saying a Bible verse, like, oh, the Book of Job.
It's a really annoying
Job?
book title. And it's also one of those titles that I kind of respect the fact that from like a search perspective, really bold to name your book that when no one can ever Google it. Yeah. You can't just Google You. I mean, you kind of can now because of the Netflix show, but
yeah.
But anyway, so yes, it's delightful trash. Really been enjoying it. It's just, I don't read. I say
Stop there. I don't read.
I don't read. This entire podcast is a lie. I don't read a lot of thriller. I've read maybe like one thriller before. It's a genre I really enjoy watching. I will say this is like trash thriller. This is like a beach read kind of thriller.
So
like,
is the first book similar to the first season?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's good trash. You're like, this could never happen. There are so many plot holes, but just juicy, enjoyable. What are you reading?
So I have just got to the end of part 2 of Sunrise on the Reaping. And I literally turned the page on to part 3. We discussed earlier, this podcast will become spoilery for Sunrise, but we're choosing not for it to not become spoilery until I finish the book.
Yes.
In case I say something that I then regret, or I don't even want to spoil anything I've read so far because the last section of the book might turn around. After that, it will become spoilery, but we will flag and timestamp everything.
Yes. So what we're going to do, and we're going to do the same for Bosas as well, Ballad, and also I think anything in recent pop culture as well, we will, if we mention it, we will include timestamps in the description. So when you start an episode, you just want to check that you're not going to get spoiled for anything recent. Just have a glance at the description. I will say, you know, we can try our best, but I'm so sorry, if it's Game of Thrones, we probably won't timestamp it. You've had so many years.
Yeah, there's a cliff edge to this kindness.
If something has been out for like a decade, we probably, I mean, we might if we're in a good mood, but we probably won't But I think anything recent going forwards, we will try and include in the description timestamps.
So completely spoiler-free thoughts. Sunrise on the Reaping. Completely spoiler-free. Interesting. How do I do this? Really enjoying it. I started it like 3 days ago. I'm obviously reading it really fast. It's a real joy to read something real fast. March was, although we discussed this earlier, both of us thought we didn't read much in March, and then we did. I think I was reading very in bits and pieces. I was like, I didn't have any chunks of like more than 20 minutes, which frustrates me when I'm like really in a good mood with a book. Whereas I've really dedicated some times, and like basically last night I read 200 pages of Sunrise in one sitting. What else can I say? I can't really say much else spoiler free apart from it's weird to say it's a joy to come back into the world, because obviously the word joy is not the right word, but there is something wonderful about coming back to a world, but it being a new story, and you being aware this is the first time you'll read something, but you are familiar with a world. That is a feeling that you don't get as often as an adult, especially me, because I mostly read standalone novels. I really don't read series that often anymore. I always forget again, nice is a very strange word to be using with this book in particular, but like a nice, for lack of a better word, feeling that is.
Yeah, and it's torturous for me because I've already finished it, and so I requested that Hannah like text me her thoughts, and it's so difficult because she will text me her thoughts, and I want to communicate that I'm like, thank you, I enjoy your thoughts, but there is nothing I can I'm just like, cool, and then I'm like, she probably thinks that I do not care, but I'm like, I care, but I can't say anything.
It was just funny how fervently you requested that I send you my thoughts, and then you're like, thank you.
And like, I just reply with like a smiley face. Just like,
she doesn't even use the emoji. She just puts like a colon and then a bracket. And I'm like, creepy. Hate that.
But it expresses a different emotion.
It does.
It does.
So yeah, that's one of the things I'm reading.
Nice.
I will probably finish it tomorrow. So these are the last episodes we'll record before I finish it, which is kind of thrilling.
Enjoy.
What
are we drinking?
What are we drinking? Well, as we mentioned, because we have to mention the weather, because if you didn't notice, we're British, the sun is shining, and therefore we decided to pick a drink appropriate for the weather. So we've gone with a little limoncello. Listen to that. Oh, lovely.
I only realised like maybe 2 years ago that limoncello is literally lemon and vodka.
Is it?
Yeah, maybe also sugar in there, but like, yeah, you just leave lemon in vodka for ages.
Interesting. This says water, sugar, alcohol. That's vague. Fusion, lemon peels, lemon juice, natural flavors.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously it will depend on like, I think you can technically do it with like any white spirit. But yeah, obviously most like when you make it at home, like you can literally take like sugar, lemon peels and vodka, and you just leave it for a really long time.
So the same way that once in uni we decided to
the bar is closed.
Bar's closed. We'll charge it for the next episode. We decided to make Skittles vodka by leaving Skittles in a bottle of vodka.
It's got to be done the same as the alcoholic like jelly babies.
Oh my god, and they blow up in size.
Yeah.
The jelly made vodka.
Yeah, I was about to say Jello shots, which is just always how are you you just end up like tonguing a shot glass.
And also they hold so much more liquid than they look, so you're just then filled with like more liquid than you'd put in your own. I tried to make it into an actual like full mold rather than just the shots for my 18th birthday, but obviously it doesn't set in the same way, so it didn't really work. A big bowl. I was 18.
Yeah.
Thoughts were, at least I wasn't just mainlining the vodka at 18. I was attempting to do something.
I mean, my mum tried to make me snitches, like cake pops.
Yeah.
But as snitches for my 18th birthday. But it was really difficult, so she gave up, and then I didn't have an 18th birthday cake.
And when will the film be coming out?
Any day now.
Right.
Book.
Oh, what do you think of the limoncello? What's your review?
It's not. I mean, it's just a good drink.
It is. Just
I'm a sucker for anything lemon flavored. Aside from, I've recently realised I hate lemon and pasta. Hate it.
Oh.
Which, bear in mind, love lemon. One of my favourite flavours. Love pasta. No.
I just reached for my drink and reached for that.
I'm just gonna fucking mainline the bottle.
Yeah, I had 2 bottles of limoncello in my house, which I actually know where they came from. I do actually know that. It was just still weird.
I support it.
I have one friend who at every big social occasion will bring a bottle of limoncello. That's the answer, and that's a weird thing to do, but it's happened. And
what friend is that?
George.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's me doing the chapter notes.
I mean, I
Fucking
can go
hell.
for my one, but you'll probably yell at me. Do you want me to say my first one?
Sure.
See how much you yell at me? Katniss realizes Peter is kind and is therefore dangerous to her.
I mean, yeah, so they help Haymitch into the bath and Peter's like, oh, I can clean him up. Which is like, I mean, yeah, you should, like, it's a very naked grown man. Like, this should absolutely, I mean, the thing is, it shouldn't be, not that it shouldn't be Peter, but it doesn't have to be either of them. There are
No,
very much
it's-
like people that can do this for them.
Yeah, there are peacekeepers and other capital representatives on board the train.
Yeah, but Katniss is, as she is throughout all of these, like, I mean, first half of the book, basically just like, he's tricking me. It's a strategy.
It's like, or he's just a nice person. But that scares her
Yeah.
like a lot more, that he might genuinely be nice, because she only, and it's so sad because she does only understand people who have not ulterior motives, that's way too strong a word, but selfish interests. Because if you grow up in, like, I guess, extreme poverty, people don't have a choice but to look for themselves, and that level of unselfish kindness is really not rare to come across, because, you know, that sounds like it's like poor people aren't kind, which is, you know, what the capital assumes, but it's that if someone has to live, it's going to be you and your family.
Yeah, for sure. Katniss flashes back to the start of her foraging and hunting, like how she got started. She would climb trees to escape wild dogs, like pull up Katniss from the water. And the thing is, whilst I know that in real life, this is, you know,
Catnip?
Katniss.
I thought the plant was called catnip and Katniss was called Katniss.
No, it's called Katniss.
What's catnip? Is it
It's-
just catnip?
Gale's nickname for her is Catnip.
So catnip still exists in this universe, and Katniss is the weird plant.
Yeah, Katniss is a potato.
Okay, for some
But
reason I thought catnip was the potato plant, and we
no,
were just
I
like,
think you're getting confused because Gale calls her Catnip.
okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, I know that in reality this would not be cutesy and fun, and she's doing it out of necessity, so she doesn't stop. But all this makes me think is like Stardew Valley. Like, I'm like, I want to go foraging. I want to go hunting. I want to go into the mines.
You don't want to go into the mine.
I know that in reality I don't want to do any of these
I
things.
don't want to go into Stardew Valley though.
I mean, yeah. No. What you don't want to do is fishing. in
No, I didn't want to
Stardew
do
Valley.
either. I gave up Stardew Valley because I got frustrated with both and couldn't get any further.
Yeah, but I think gaming and just general like cottage corners really makes you think, oh,
That's
nice. But no,
No,
not
absolutely
actually
not.
nice. We learn that they're going to have a stylist for the games. So next we reach one of the only moments in the entire series where there is an actual drink canonically mentioned. And whilst it's not mentioned by name, we can read between the lines and establish that there is no fucking way we're drinking this. And anyone that has watched our other podcasts, our Goblet of Wine, will understand why.
Yeah.
So Haymitch is described as drinking a red juice that he's thinning with a clear liquid. So I think we can safely assume he is drinking a Bloody Mary.
Isn't it actually said there's celery in it as well, or like a
can't
stick in it or
remember.
something? But yeah, it's a Bloody Mary, which also fits because Haymitch, like it's a well-known hair of the dog drink.
Yeah.
Like it's a very common thing.
But
we have problems.
we have beef with Bloody Marys. I mean, I say that. I've never actually drunk a Bloody Mary. I was always against it from this sheer concept of that is fucking disgusting and that's not going in my mouth. And then a few years ago, one of our patrons paid us to drink a Caesar, which is a Bloody Mary but with clam juice. So tomato
clamato juice.
Yeah, so clamato juice is tomato and clam juice. And we both almost vomited. It was the only thing, normally, even if something is disgusting, we will make a go of it. Normally, we will always make a go of drinking something. Even if it's disgusting, we'll drink like half of it. This was the only thing that we ever had one sip and went, no, because we both almost vomited. It was horrendous. More recently, someone sent us all the way from America. It was like a chelada with clamato juice. So it was like beer and clamato juice.
Yeah, it was a Bud Light mixed with clamato juice.
Same
Even
situation. Just no. So I have no desire to ever drink a Bloody Mary. However, I do have a commitment to the bit. We did try.
We did go to 3 shops to find
Well,
tomatoes.
yeah, I went to one shop and I couldn't find it. And then I told Hannah to, on her way here, please check. She claims she couldn't find. I'm not sure I believe that she looked. Bear in mind, she was very against this idea. Not that I wanted to.
I looked.
She claimed she. Anyway, so really we should be drinking Bloody Marys. But I'm very glad that we're not.
Yeah, same. I just genuinely can't wrap my head around it. And I know we've suffered too far with the clam version, but I think therefore it will be like flashbacks if I try to drink the
triggering.
We
will
get
actual
version.
PTSD, and I don't mean that in a way where I'm saying that to like lessen what PTSD is. I mean we're gonna get full on PTSD like we're veterans.
Yeah. So we're not doing that. We're drinking limoncello.
But we did try because we do have a commitment to the bit. But it was when I was reading this and I was like, I was like, I cannot believe of all the fucking drinks. And then I texted you and you were like, what? Like, and I was like, he drinks a red juice with a clear liquid in it. I mean, it could be, maybe he's got a UTI and it's actually cranberry juice.
Maybe I like vodka cranberry. I love vodka cranberry. It could have been
we could have drank vodka.
It could have been of blood orange. We could have got the blood orange San Pellegrino and mixed vodka. You didn't think about that, did you?
No, I just my brain. I mean, it's definitely a Bloody Mary.
It is, but we could have lied and got a blood orange mixed.
Soz. So a fight breaks out. They're like kind of going at each other, and all of a sudden Hamish is actually convinced of their fighting abilities. Like, this is the first time that he's actually like, oh, actually maybe there is potential here.
The fight breaks out because they're both fighting with each other but also wanting to fight Hamish, right? Because they want Hamish to mentor them. And Hamish at the beginning is kind of implying, what's the point? You'll both die anyway. But by the end of the fight, both with each other and him, he's kind of like, oh, these two are different from the other kids I've had to watch.
They're not like other tributes. They're so small. Look at the size of their hands. They're not like other tributes. She wears short skirts. I wear t-shirts. She's cheer captain on the bleachers.
He agrees to actually mentor them. And I think as the audience, we also start to realize that Hamish, because I think we're also told that like it's the job of the previous winners to mentor, but District 12 only has one surviving winner, so Hamish mentors every year, whereas other districts get to swap out and things like that. So Hamish has had to sit here in this position for, I mean, I think we learned in the train ride 24 times, just being like, great, this is great.
Which is fucking horrific.
Yeah.
Like, no wonder he's completely lost faith and gone off the rails. Like, we don't even need Sunrise to be like, oofed, you know?
Yeah, that's awful. Yeah, it's the fact that we kind of have it. We know that other districts get to swap out their mentors, and also we know because Hamish is the only winner, no one else. So he's watched 24 years. That's 48 kids die, and he's meant to be in charge of them. It's like, okay, yeah, that's fucking awful, and he's never out of this torture. And I think as an older reader, you're therefore like, oh, so what is even the point of winning? Like, obviously, your human instinct is to win and live, but if you're, looking at Hamish like,
yeah,
what's the fucking point if I'm just going to be dragged up to do this again?
And even you could argue that Hamish has it all right. All he has to do is the mentoring, because as we learn in book 2 with Finnick, a lot of the winners are actually then forced as well into sex work. Yeah. So you're obviously going to have a huge amount of guilt and PTSD from the games themselves that you then have to relive every single year being a mentor. Your best case scenario is that you get replaced, like quite quickly you get another winner, but then I saw a thing, because I always assumed that it was once there's another winner you kind of retire.
No,
but I
choose.
saw they like kind of cycle through it. But I'd always assumed that it was just like, but yeah, your best case scenario is that there is other people, there's plenty of other winners to get cycled through. I mean, Hamish doesn't have that. Like, it's just him. He has to do it every fucking year.
Yeah.
But yeah, for a huge amount of them, not only are they dealing with the PTSD, dealing with having to relive it by every few years being a mentor, but they're also being paraded around the capital, forced into sex work and God knows what else as well. So yeah, it really is at a certain point like, yeah, I think there is the human nature that you would want to survive, but is it actually worth it?
Yeah.
And because people always say that, and like I joke about it as well. Oh no, you immediately step on the pedestal to blow up. And whilst, that is actually the logical thing to do, at the same time, could you actually do it? Could you actually step off?
Well, most humans' instinct is self-preservation.
Yeah.
Like, over and over again, humans will choose self-preservation over anything else, even against your brain telling you not to. Your body steps in and goes, no, my legs aren't going to move. I'm not going to move. Like, there is there's a deeper part of humans that stops you doing things like that.
Yeah, and the
Which
fear
is
of
often
death.
where, like, I read that that it's not intrusive thoughts, it's called something else, but where that thing where you're like standing on a bridge, standing on a platform, and something goes jump or push someone, it's your body's way of like testing those mechanisms sometimes, and like that human instinct to stop yourself is sometimes your brain going, what if I push someone? Like, it's not that you want to do it, it's sometimes just your brain and your body being like, let me go through these scenarios and things like that. But that's because it happens to all of us. You stand on a bridge and you go, what if I, and it's like, or you stand on the tube platform, you're like, what if I push someone? It's like, I don't want to push someone. Stop thinking that, please. You're looking at me like, I've never thought that.
No, it's more than I have, but sometimes it's because people are really fucking annoying.
So yeah, it's like, could you actually do it? Even when these two are faced with the fact that like they both want to win, they actually both want to get out of this, even though they're faced with Haymitch going, well, that's a terrible life. That's a terrible, terrible life.
He remarks that once they've been styled, they're going to be attractive enough, which they don't even question. I think they're like so aware of the reality of like what the games are. Like, obviously pretty privilege is a huge thing in like real life anyway, but like in the games, like I think that it's obviously like an even bigger thing.
Yeah, and they've also, you know, both grown up watching the games. It's a kind of a forced thing that they watch it every year, and because you watch the reapings, you see the tributes before the beautification process, so you know how this works. It's all that it reminds me of is the X Factor makeover bit.
Yeah.
Knowing that when these people walk into the audition, that the judges were already thinking like, oh, but once they go through the makeover, they'll look like X. And I used to look forward to the makeover sequence. Even if someone looked fine, they looked perfectly fine, I'd be like, what are they going to do? I bet they're going to do this. I bet they're going to do this. I looked forward to the X Factor makeover bit.
It's very America's Next Top Model as well.
I've never watched it.
I haven't, but like I've seen clips and I'm familiar because there's always that clip where like every season one girl would get a pixie cut and it would always be
they cry
absolutely
about
brutal.
it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because often they'd pick the person that absolutely shouldn't have a pixie cut because then obviously it makes good TV when they cry. Yeah, that show was evil.
But I also used to addictively watch, oh my God, the one with the pod.
Snog, Marry, Avoid.
Okay, there were two with a pod.
What was the other pod?
The one where they brought in over made up people and under made them up. So
Yeah,
it was like,
that's Snog, Marry, Avoid.
was it? That was the same.
Yeah, because they would get a load of men and like on the street and they'd show like a photo of the woman and be like, would you snog her or marry her or avoid her? And they'd all be like, oh, avoid, because they'd be like really tarted up. And
Well,
then
they sometimes get goths in and things like
Yeah.
that. And it's like, okay, they're expressing themselves, but chill out.
yeah, and then they'd give them a make under, like strip them of any originality or personality, and then show them again to men because obviously it's just men's opinion that matters.
Obviously.
And then they'd ask them again, like snog, marry, or avoid, and they'd all be like, oh, marry.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's the one. It doesn't matter who you are as an individual or your personal style or what
All you
makes
want is-
you happy how you present. It's all about being a marriageable woman.
To men on the street. But the thing is, I think I didn't even find this makeover scene in the Hunger Games perverse when I first read it because our TV growing up was make shows.
Yeah.
I used to watch them addictively without even thinking that there was anything weird or wrong about it. And I mean, there were hundreds. The ones I mainly used to watch.
Oh,
Gok!
Gok!
Gok one!
I love Gok.
To be
Oh my
fair,
God.
He did a good job at raising their confidence as well. Bless
Yes.
God. In a sea of toxic makeover shows, he still had a pretty toxic makeover show, but he did do a good job at really raising these women's self-confidence and their sense of self-worth and talking to them about like their hobbies and what they loved about themselves. And he would always ask them, what's the feature you like best? And like find out ways to like enhance that feature.
Yeah, and he also did like a good like high street versus designer where he'd do like a catwalk. Oh my God.
Yes. Oh my God.
Can we just bring back? There is so much like naughties TV that, yeah, we can bring back like less toxic versions when it's shit like that. But even stuff like, and okay, admittedly, I might be about to say this and people might be about to be like, Charlie, that's never been off air. But Ready, Steady, Cook, can we bring it back? I know that America has chopped, but can we bring back Ready, Steady,
I used
Cook?
to love Teddy Cook. I just remember, sorry, I gasped because I just remember the name of another makeover show, the most like really invasive one. I'm so sorry. So sorry, that was bad timing. I'm so sorry.
I then made it so much worse by trying to make a noise of protest whilst my mouth was still very much full.
10 years younger?
What's that?
Oh God, you didn't watch that. 10 years younger was when they found people who looked older than were.
Are you guys enjoying this Hunger Games podcast?
And they would survey 100 randoms on the street. These shows always involved surveying randoms on the street, and then they would tell the person what the average age according to 100 people on the street they surveyed was, and it was always at least 10 years older than the person was. Then they did a makeover with them, an invasive makeover. Usually the makeovers involved getting their teeth done, lowering their hairline, getting some form of, this was before the big era of Botox, getting some form of work done, but also like dyeing their hair, and their clothes were then done. But oh god, the teeth scenes were horrifying. Really like, I don't know why my mum let me watch all this, but like really disturbing. And then they would survey 100 people on the street again to ask for the average age.
Wow.
That was a really perverse one.
That sounds awful. I just want Ready Steady Cook.
That's okay. You're allowed to want Ready Steady Cook.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was written just at the end of that era. So this, I remember not even questioning this in the books, because I was like, yeah, a makeover is a normal thing.
Yeah. And I remember like kind of wanting, like, obviously I didn't want to be a tribute, but like wanting the makeover.
Yeah.
And also I find there's something to be like really satisfying, and I would never do it, but satisfying about the idea of being like waxed all over. Like,
Okay.
I wouldn't actually do it, but like for one time I want to just be a snake, you know? But anyway, so I had like a weird fact, like I want, and I stand by that. Like I still kind of, and I don't think it would ever actually probably make me change how I do style myself. I would be very interested one day to have like someone style
someone
me.
else do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And see what they decide.
Exactly. It's like I've been watching Married at First Sight, and don't get me wrong, I would never go on the show because I'm not that asked about getting married. However, I do find the idea of like, who would someone else set me up with?
Yeah.
Because would it be someone different to who I would normally go for? Therefore, would it work? Would it not work? I just find I'm obsessed with myself, basically. I want to know how someone else would style me and who they'd set me up with.
I think that's human nature.
Yeah, I think it's like, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
interesting to think about. Anyway, if you guys haven't already, we for anyone new here, we go on tangents. It's what we do.
The
Deal with
tangents
it.
along. They pull into the Capitol. Woo! Peter waves at the Capitol people through the train window, and Katniss realizes that Peter wants to survive. So before she was kind of thinking like, oh, he's like me, he doesn't want to die, he wants to do the best he can. Now she's like, oh, it's not that just he doesn't want to like die early and embarrassing. He wants sponsors, he wants the Capitol to like him, he wants to live. And this ticks off something even worse in her brain of he's therefore an enemy. This is bad. And she's panicking because she's like, he's a lot further steps ahead of me. This is smarter than I would have thought.
Yeah. That's all I had on that chapter.
Same. It was a nice short chapter.
Chapter 5. We skipped to the waxing.
We skipped straight to what the people want, which is waxing the whole body.
Again.
As we said, we want a makeover scene.
I don't know. I just want to be waxed. I've never
You can pay someone to do that.
No, but like the thing is I don't want to, because I would want to be waxed like head to, I would just want to experience it once in my life. But at the same time I don't, because I don't want my hair.
Yeah, I don't want my arm.
Exactly. Like, yeah. But there's something, yeah, the idea of like a clean slate just feels, I've never even been waxed. The idea is,
Well, it's got to be relative. It's got to be even weirder for Katniss, considering she's never shaved.
yeah.
Anywhere. She's got to be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, this is bizarre.
I mean, they literally like remark about how hairy she is, and it's
Like, she kind of needs that. It's kind of useful to her.
and it's also just, yeah, that's how humans are.
Yeah.
And I think it's also like when we know that a lot of the capital people like have enhancements to make them look like animals. Like obviously the key one is tigress.
Yeah.
But we do get also a lot of references
To
to
other
other
animals.
people as well. And it's like, it's so interesting that their like default is like, okay, if you're human, remove all of your hair unless you're getting these weird enhancements and then you can be hairy. It's odd.
I've also got to say, the older I've got, the weirder I find the makeup scene, considering how young they are. Katniss and Peter are both 16, so them being waxed and beautified isn't out the realms of my, like, yeah, it's a bit weird, but I understand. 16-year-olds, you know, start to dress up, things like that. They do this to the 11-year-old tribute. And not only that, it's not just beautifying, and yeah, we get some mentions that tributes are more in cutesy dresses, but there's a big push on sexifying tributes, which I'm like, all of them are under 18. So, and I didn't realize as a child how bizarre the sexual undertone is, all, especially considering what you just said about the fact that Finnick and other tributes become prostitutes for the Capitol or sex workers for the Capitol and are forced into that. there's a very weird sexual undertone to what they're doing to these children, and the capital does have a focus on youth and beauty, and it's like, and they're all obsessed with these under 18-year-olds and that youthfulness.
We get a description of the prep team working on them, of their voices specifically. So they are high pitched, their jaws barely open as they talk. The end of their sentences go up like a question, and there's like a hiss on the letter S. So they all kind of have lisps. And I think that this is really interesting. It's also really creepy. I think that it's interesting because like accents are something that do evolve through time. Like regions' accents don't stay as like a consistent thing. I think this has actually, it's one of those things that's aged very well. It's become even more poignant since publication. I think when we have things like the influencer accent, that is something that's been starting to be talked about more and more.
Yep.
Of all of these influencers that have this like really specific cadence of how they talk.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, it makes you appreciate how genius the Hunger Games are. And I mean, there are a few book series and just media in general that do manage to make these incredible predictions that you're like, how could you have ever, The Simpsons being a very common one of them, but how could she have predicted this? Because you absolutely see a world in which this influencer accent like could go on to become more of like the average person has this accent because you watch this online content. And
do you know what it reminds me of? There was this guy going around interviewing Oxford students, and he interviewed one person who is doing their dissertation or PhD, I don't know which, on gay speak. Never been studied before. I am the first person, as far as I have like found, to do academic research on this. What they were kind of discovering, and bear in mind I'm really like paraphrasing what I saw on TikTok of someone's actual like years worth of study, is that gay people and people that are very like gay coded, and I'm again usually speaking about male gay people here, have a specific cadence, accent and way of speaking that does not correlate to area, wealth, things like that. And it's like, okay, so ways of speaking, like with the influencer thing, aren't just area, it's also to do with people you're spending time with, but also with the gay thing, the thing they're trying to study is it to do with outwards trying, basically almost anti-maleness, trying to seem less of a threat to women, trying to signal that you are gay and not a threat, because a lot of women find like obviously like male behavior a threat. And it ties into that kind of jokes you see sometime of line of, if you're trying to talk to someone at night going, hey girl, rather than like hi, is like signaling that you are safe. And I was like, wow, that is fascinating, because it's kind of like something you do see. And I think this is like leaning into this, but also like she's leading into like, I don't know, like in my head again, the thing I was joking about earlier, the Valley Girl way of speaking, the kind of almost like headed way of speaking.
To your point, and it doesn't relate to the meaning behind your point, but just to like acknowledge it. Also, like, just for the record, a lot of the language used by gay people is actually AAVE. That's like they're stealing and co-opting it. Just, it doesn't actually relate to your point, but just to like acknowledge that on the record, that is something that we're aware of. But no, it is interesting. I do enjoy like the TikToks that you get of men being like, when you're like walking down the street at night and you want to like, and they do all these jokey scenarios of when you're walking and it's night and there's also a woman walking the same way that you're going,
and you're like, I'm not a threat.
They're like walking past going, I'm married, like I'm gay, like
I love your shoes.
Yeah, literally.
But this signaling thing, and also the way that speech mirrors each other. She finds these two people speak very similarly, but that is extremely common for people who spend a lot of time together, to mirror the way they speak. And also coding switches are so common. I've realized the older I get how big a coding switch I am when I speak to different groups of people. I have a work voice that's different from my socializing voice. The socializing in different groups is different for me. Like I call myself terrible for it, because I wish I was more consistent with the way I spoke, but it is it's a very common thing for humans to do.
I love as an adult, like every now and then you'll hear one of your friends take a work call and you're like, what? Who are you?
Yeah. But also like my family voice is different for that. When I spend a lot of time with certain like areas of my family, i.e. like the family that are all from Essex, my accent changes because you mirror and it's to do with wanting to to align yourself with the people you're with. It's a very, very natural thing to do. But I think, yeah, these two stylists kind of show that they're meant to be like a little epitome of the capital, but also, and I'm not going to go into it fully now because it's meant to develop through the 3 books, I love the stylists with all my heart and everything they represent. I think they are such well-written characters. She could have painted them so much as villains, but instead she chooses to give them this really beautiful story that develops through the 3 books. And I really appreciate that she did that, because I think a lot of male writers would have gone, people that do makeup and beauty, let me villainize them.
Yeah.
Let me make them stupid. And the book tricks you into doing that, because Katniss does think they're stupid at the beginning, but it changes so much throughout the 3 books. So
yeah,
I'm so excited for us to talk about their characters as they develop.
Yes. However, I do find there is something really creepy about the description of the way that they talk. I can't pinpoint why. I think it's the jaws barely opening. It feels like such a unnatural put on thing, which is probably what they are doing, because we do then learn that there are people that go against that, like Cinna being like a really key example. There are people that go against the capital way of being. So it's like, it's not that this is like an inherent like bred thing. It is that there is like a level of putting it on, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it's definitely a bit creepy. We get references to, for instance, Octavia has dyed her skin pea green, which is, I'm fascinated by this. Is it a temporary dye? Is this like more permanent, like a tattoo? How the fuck do you commit to that? I'm bad enough. I have tattoos that I've wanted for so many years, and I still haven't got them because I'm like, oh, but the commitment, even though I already have 3
Love
tattoos.
that when you got that on a whim.
Right? Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, like, I've got 3 tattoos. I regret the first 2 I got. So it doesn't really set you up well for getting any more when you regret 2 out of 3, you know? So the stylists, she remarks that the stylists are so unlike actual people because of their pea green skin, etc., that she actually doesn't feel self-conscious in front of them. We meet Cinna.
Oh, right. Sorry, you had half a note more before mine.
Yes, and I deserve the right to say that note. Cinna, babe. Who's the actor?
Oh, it's Thingy. It's Kravitz. It's Lenny Kravitz. Is it not? Am I wrong? Am I saying something? Oh God, is it not Lenny Kravitz?
I thought Lenny Kravitz is old, but am I thinking of someone else?
He is quite old in those films. He just
Is
looks
he?
really good. And also those films came out
No,
quite
it
a while
is
ago.
Lenny Kravitz.
Yes! Deep in the recesses of my...
I'm about to say something really stupid.
Great. Him.
Is Zoe Kravitz related?
Yes.
She must be.
Yes. How they're related, I don't know. But they are related. You can find out how. He's also older than you think he is.
Yeah.
He looked amazing.
Yeah, I'm now Googling.
Pause while we Google things.
Because, yeah, I thought Lenny... 60. So he would have been like...
Well, 45.
Were they 50?
Yeah. The first one.
What you have to... In my brain, I'm 25.
You're not, though.
In my brain.
I believe the first one came out at least 15 years ago. But
mean,
yeah, he
yeah.
was 45, which tracks with the character. Good. She's Googling other things.
No, I need to see this. I'm Googling Cinna.
I don't think he looks as young as you think he looks.
Yeah, that's the thing. Now that I'm looking at photos, sure. Like, I think this is more a case of kind of how I'm remembering how he looks. Because, okay, yeah. Like, he is a young 45, but yeah, I find that believable.
Yeah.
But he does look so good. And honestly, slay. I know. What's Lenny Kravitz famous for? Is he an actor?
Yeah. Hence why he's in the Hunger Games.
No, he's a singer. I thought so. He's a singer. That's why I was confused, because I thought he was a singer. He's a singer.
What else has he acted in?
I guess other things.
Right.
But I think he's perfect. I think he plays it so well.
How is he related to Zoe? I thought that was the next thing you're going to tell us.
Sorry. I assume father.
Is there that big an age gap between them?
Well, I don't know. I looked to see that he was in her Wikipedia, but I didn't. Are you really glad that you're getting run down off the Kravitz family?
Also, how many dynasties have we found just during the recording of this episode? Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah, he's a parent.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, perfect. He got like the like calm, the like peacefulness.
Yeah, the calmness.
He's so good. The fact that he suits the gold eyeliner is it's so stupid, but it feels to me like such a key thing. Like,
I love the little gold eyeliner thing as well. Like, a small little relatable thing. And then I love that Effie brings through the gold theme in book 2. I think that's like so key to her character. Again, I'll talk about Cinna the way I talk about the stylist as the books move forward. But I think you can tell these books are written by a woman. And I'm not saying a man couldn't have written this, but I've not seen a man do this, where the credit she gives to people like stylists, makeup artists, Effie, these people who work jobs that you don't think could be revolutionary, and the way she gives them power to become part of the revolution is my favorite part of the books, because not all of us can be Katniss, but if you are a Cinna, if you are one of the prep team, if you are like an Effie, you can still make a difference. And I think that is like one of the most important messages in the books.
And what is your degree in?
Makeup.
So she might be bad. No, I'm kidding. I completely agree. I do think that those kind of industries, particularly any kind of creative industry, they get looked down upon in terms of the change that they can make. And actually they can be huge parts. Like at the end of the day, like what this is coming down to is branding. And so many of the things, to the point, because as we learn in book 2, there is a huge amount that is planned for Katniss that she has no idea that's been planned. And we learn about that in book 2, but we only really learn about what was planned in book 2. And in this, there is so much stuff where you're like, what was perfectly aligning and what was planned that Katniss doesn't know about. Like, I'll speak about it more later on, but you know, the idea of presenting them as a team, presenting them together, obviously later plays into stuff where it can't have been planned by the rebels, because how would they ever know the direction that it was going to go in? But you know, for instance, the flames, we know that Cinna is a rebel. Haymitch says in a bit how actually the act of them holding hands is an act of rebellion. We know that Cinna is on side. He's very similar to Plutarch in that he is a capital person that is on the side of the rebellion. However, whilst yes, the flames were like a planned out branding move to make them stand apart and to give them the best possible chance, he can't have literally known that it would then become the whole girl on fire, catching fire, the spark of the revolution. He surely can't have, but there is so much that fits together perfectly.
And what I love is that the branding works both ways. So you're talking about how the branding plays into the rebellion plot. Cinna isn't told off by the Capitol for any of this, because the branding is also essential to the Capitol side, and all the other tributes are being branded into their Capitol side. We know that normally, we're told in the books, the tributes, District 12 tributes, are dressed in coal mining outfits, but this is his first year with 12 and he's going to do something different. And what we kind of learn through that and through what's happening with the other tributes, them being dressed up to look like fishermen or things like that, is that the spectacle is more important than the reality, and the narrative that is being created either by the Capitol or by these secret rebellious people is more important than the truth. They're selling something. And whilst what's amazing about what Cinna is selling is that it sells to the Capitol and it sells to the rebels.
It's so smart.
At the same time.
And I think him and Plutarch are both really similar characters in that respect. It's like it's like a meme at this point, and I can't even remember what the original quote is from, but it's, I'm playing both sides so that no matter who wins, I come out on top. It might be Always Sunny. But it's not that they are both doing that. I mean, I do think Plutarch is. Cinna, I think less so. But they do it in such a brilliant way where their behavior can be interpreted as good for the games or good for the rebels. There is that level of plausible deniability that is fucking genius, and it's why they get away with it, particularly with Plutarch. I think, I'm going to say it now, we don't even meet him for another book, I don't think, do we?
No, we don't meet him until book 2.
No. Plutarch, I think, is one of my favourite fictional characters of all time. And the fact that he is played by Philip Seymour Hoffman.
But what I think this then plays so well into is then book 3, which shows us that whatever side you're on, propaganda is propaganda. In book 1, Cinna's costumes, without us realising, are playing into the rebel cause. We think he's just selling Katniss into the Capitol. In book 2, they walk the line. They show a rebel side, which means that Cinna gets killed. In book 3, we learn that they've all been working for Coin, who is creating these propos, which means that Katniss doesn't matter and that it's all for the rebel cause. And you know, although the rebel cause at its heart is good, Coin turns out to be a terrible leader.
She's the other side of the same coin.
Marketing and propaganda are marketing and propaganda, whatever side you're on. But also, it shows how the left fish hooks around. It does this. These books do this really cleverly of being like, well, the Capitol's really right wing, but if you go so far left, you end up hooking back around to the right, and
it's so good. I actually had a conversation with someone the other day, someone who is like very political. They work in politics. They've studied history and politics. And we were having this conversation about Israel and Palestine. He was basically saying that he hopes that in the future, Palestine he was saying it like he does and he doesn't. But he hopes that Palestine kind of get their chance at revenge, right? Very much in the way of like, obviously I don't, but also I do.
Right.
You know? And he basically, he said this when we were having a discussion about it. And I was like, but the thing with that is that what's happening right now with Israel is that you have like the Jewish people who have like historically been through so much and been victims. And it's something that you see it on an individual level. Like victims are more likely to end up victimizing someone else to become abusers themselves. You see this on an individual level.
Yeah.
That is essentially what is happening.
Yeah, we're watching it
on a mass, like national scale, is that we have, I'm saying like the Jewish people, it's not all Jewish people saying we've been victims and there's like an element of we have the right to do this to someone else because it's been done to us. And I was basically like, so if you turn that around and you have Palestine win and then they then do the same thing, that is the exact same thing. They then become Israel in that situation. Yeah. And he was basically like, oh, like, you know, I completely agree. But he said to me, I've read so many books, like I've got a master's, I've studied this, I work in politics and I understand that concept, but like not in like a patronizing way, but like you haven't done that. Like I'm really impressed that you have that level. And he was like, how? Unironically, because I read The Hunger Games when I was 15.
Yeah.
That is the plot of The Hunger Games. That is what happens in the third book. Yeah. And like, I was like, I don't know how to say this to you.
Suzanne really said
genuinely, I was like, it's that good that, and this is why I love fiction so much. And I'm such an advocate of, you know, people act like reading non-fiction is the only way to be intelligent and cultured and to better yourself. No, fuck off. Like, I'm so sorry, but fiction has such a brilliant way of introducing us to these concepts that you can understand it on this kind of like smaller fictional level and then translate that into other situations like that. I'm like, I can understand very complex political situations. I mean, obviously understand there's a lot I don't understand, but I can understand that concept of it doesn't make it right and then you just turn it back around and it becomes like an ever evolving loop because it was covered in the Hunger Games. And that is why she's so fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Reflects the real world. Good fiction reflects the real world back at you through a individual human lens so that you can relate to it. That's what, not that all fiction should be good and should be saying a message, but that is what fiction that lasts longer than the author's life tends to do. It reflects human nature and also history back at you through a human lens. I was watching the Hunger Games films, still persuaded this person to read them, but watching the Hunger Games films with someone who had never watched them before, but someone who is a big pro-Palestine person, has been on the marches as part of the London activism group, things like that, but had never watched the films. And I was kind of like, I think you'll really like these. I think you'll appreciate some of the messages in them. Got to the bit in film 3 where they bomb a hospital, then blame it on the rebels. And this person did not believe it was written when it was, based on the fact that that is something that has happened in the last year in Israel and Palestine. They were like, that can't be true. And I'm like, but it is, because Suzanne's that smart, and also what's happening in Israel and Palestine has happened before and will happen again if we continue. What I'm trying to do is teach young people how to break this cycle. And that's the reason she literally came out and said, is when it was like, why have you written Sunrise on the Reaping? Why have you come back to this? It's like, because people still aren't listening. People still aren't absorbing what I am trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I thought about in the scene, like, she is literally stark bollock naked in front of Cinna, a man that she's never met before. But we don't have any references to her fearing for her sexuality. And I think that probably this can be explained by the fact that, like, it's a YA book, and obviously we do have several brutal things, but I think that sexual violence is always seen on a whole different level to violence. But I do think it's interesting what Suzanne chose to include and to not include. And yeah, the fact that at no point does Katniss actually fear for her safety in that way, despite the fact she is literally as naked as she possibly could be in front of a man that she's never met.
I mean, I'm 50-50 torn on how this presents. One is she immediately trusts Cinna and there's something about him which immediately comes across. Two, that she is, although she has fear of a lot of things, the way she's grown up has made her not fearful of the males around her, and she is quite free in front of them, i.e. like swimming in the lake with Gail and like running around in the forest and things like that. Three is from a publishing perspective, which I have some knowledge of, is this book is already walking the line hard of being published under YA. Like, this book really pushed the boundaries of what is allowed to be called YA in this country. You can't put sexual violence in a YA book. It will not be published. It has to then go into adult, which adults won't read books about 13-year-olds. And it's not just that there are like recommendations around it, publishers will not publish things. So it's like a mixture of both. You can still hint at things because she does do a good job at hinting at things in this book, but yeah, I think it speaks to Cinna's character that there's not even a hint of that. So I think
so he presses a button and this meal kind of comes up through the table, and Katniss really thinks about how long that meal would take her to make even an inferior version, with all the gathering and the hunting and the trading that she would have to do to make even like a shit version.
Yeah.
And she wonders what people in the capital do all day. And this, I'm kind of shoehorning in something that I've wanted to talk about, and this is like the first opportunity that I can really talk about it, that I want to talk about the economy of Panem.
Oh, I thought you were just going to leave it at the economy. I was like, I don't want to talk about the economy. Panem.
Of Panem. Because obviously the Hunger Games, like, you can boil it down to being a criticism of capitalism. So I think when you typically think about Panem, you think about it as being a capitalist society.
Yeah.
But actually, we get a huge amount of evidence that it isn't it's not purely a capitalist society. There are elements of capitalism. However, it is not actually a traditional capitalist society. And I think it's really interesting because, and admittedly, a lot of this is because at the end of the day, we don't have all of the information. We know that there is some enterprise even in the capital. Like, we have Cinna has his own fashion line. We know that Tigris has a business. We know that some people have like investments, things like that.
Well, we know there are professors. We know there's a school.
We know that there's the stylists, for instance.
Yeah.
So we do know that some people work. However, we also get questions like this, like, what do they do all day? We don't see many actual examples of like average day-to-day people working. We know that a lot of people just have family money, and we know that people can have investments in certain industries. For instance, from Ballad, very minor it's not even really spoilers, but in Ballad we know that certain families will have investments in certain industries. For instance, it could be an investment in the graphite industry. So we know that even though these industries are government run, you can invest in them. So what we do know is that it is a command economy. So very similar to North Korea or like the Soviet Union, where it comes from the government as saying, this is how the economy works. Obviously, we know that, for instance, is mining. We know that 11 is trees. Lumber. Lumber. That's the word. So we know that it is very controlled in that it comes from the government. The government is saying, you produce this, you produce this. This, like a command-based economy, is typically going to be a very slow growth economy, because obviously, whilst there are efficiencies in terms of, for instance, you're only educating people in 12 on mining and people in 11 on trees, which does create like efficiencies. It's also not that efficient in that you're not having like a typical like capitalist system of, you're not having multiple companies doing the mining or doing the trees.
Well, also they prevent the technology which is used in 12 to speed up systems being used in the districts in order to keep them in poverty. That the technology exists to make these systems non-manual, and they intentionally are keeping them manual in order to people in service.
Yeah, just one of the reasons that it inhibits growth. You have, you don't have different companies doing the same thing that are competing with each other and innovating. You only have like one system and one area. So for instance, with the tree industry, that's very volatile to weather because it's only happening in one place. If there is extreme weather, that entire economy, that part of the economy is going to suffer because you don't have another part of the country doing it.
Yeah.
So it's typically a slow growth economy, which is obviously some evidence, therefore, for it not being like a traditional capitalist economy. However, there are still elements of capitalism. For instance, obviously, we know that there is the bakery that Peter's family have. We know that, there's Ty's business. We know that there are some elements of capitalism. So what we can kind of establish is that whilst like major industries are state owned, they can be invested in by individuals or by families, and then local businesses are allowed to exist. So we kind of have like a weird mashup of this like command economy with the bits of capitalism, but then we also have elements of socialism and communism. For instance, things like the tesserae. It's a really weird blend of economies, and a lot of it does come from we don't get to see the average Joe's life in the capital.
No.
We don't, yeah, some of them have family money, but how is that money being sustained? Is it investments in these government-owned industries? Therefore, how does that work? Or does the average person have a job, but then the fuck are those jobs? Because there can only be so many retail jobs and that kind of thing.
It's one to reference our ex-boyfriend. Not everyone can work in Diagon Alley.
Yeah, or
Not
in the Ministry of Magic.
That's only 2 jobs.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions about how the economy in Panem works. But it seems like it is like a very weird blend of this kind of command economy with elements of both capitalism, socialism, and communism. And then obviously there is the fact that, like, I think that we can assume that it's an oligarchy. Again, that's kind of called into question because we do know that, like, the title is like a president, which would,
but he has been the president for 70 years.
Exactly.
No, 60
however,
years.
we do know that he wasn't related to the last president. I can't remember his name, but they weren't related. So therefore,
he might have murdered his way to the top.
Well, yeah, it might have been murder. It might have been that guy kind of picking him as is. So it's not.
It's definitely not a democracy.
It's
even within. Well,
this is the thing.
It could be a false democracy. The capital could have elected Snow again and again and again and again and
so
again.
I think there's either two possibilities. Either it's an oligarchy in that the last guy before croaking it has gone. We know that it's not like a monarchy. It's not been the previous guy's son. He has picked Snow. So either he's been picked or maybe, there was like some kind of murder. That, or I think that it can be like, obviously not actual democracy, but I do think that there could have been some kind of election. However, I think this would have either only been taken place in the capital or even potentially the 1% of the capital. And I think that it would have been one-time election. It wouldn't be like we have it where it's like every 4 years. But it would have been like he's elected now.
But you say that it could still be happening every 5 years because we've got to think about the fact that Russia have an election every 5 years, but yet Putin is because it's completely rigged. Like you can have a false democracy in that, like these systems are made from an outside perspective, even though we all know they're not true, to look like it. So we could have a system where like it's entirely rigged and it's democracy. It's more because my head is always in like history stuff. It's much more pertinent. You're viewing it more like Russia and North Korea because everyone's working in industries and the capital people are working. I almost view it as more like a feudal system where the capital, like in Bridgerton, where you have the ton, where a lot of people are landed gentry, i.e. they are deigned not to work because they are chosen by the system, by God, to not work, and everyone else has to work for them. And it is a kindness because you give the system around you employment. That is genuinely the feudal system in England until 1900. Is that anyone who wasn't landed gentry, the ton, we had the emergence of the middle class in the 1800s, but it's a kindness to give these people employment because they weren't chosen by God to be lords and barons and viscounts and the king.
And this actually brings me on to like the next element of this I wanted to say, because we do learn that obviously there are class systems even within the like poor districts. And I had always kind of assumed that it was that kind of system where there was a certain element of being given things. And we do actually, interestingly, in Sunrise, get some insight into this when we have the mayors. Because when I read the original Hunger Games, I was thinking, how does the mayor work? Is this like it's one family? We do learn that it is kind of picked and it can go between families based on politically who is in favour. But I also think it's quite interesting when you think about how these families that do own the bakeries or the sweet shops or whatever it is in 12, in whatever district it is, how did they get into that position? Because it's not a traditional capitalist economy, you know. It's not like they can work harder at the mines and earn more money and eventually start their own shop. So how did these people, was it this kind of like system where perhaps when there was a rebellion, the people that weren't rebels or were less rebels or were spies, then when this new system, this new world order got set up, they were like, yes, you're still going to be punished. However, you can have a bakery, or you can be the mayor, or something like this. Like, how did this come to be? Because it's not like in 12 you can work and hustle.
No.
There is not that element of capitalism. So therefore, how did these people get? So I think it must have been that kind of system where it was, yeah, maybe people that were, I don't want to say spies, but like lesser rebels or didn't rebel.
Yeah, and then it's been passed down, whether it's familial or not, mostly familial, but if you don't have the right children, you end up passing it to a cousin, a close friend,
Exactly.
and things like that, which is why, like, the slight spoiler, it's not a spoiler for Sunrises, these family names crop up even though it's 24 years before Katniss, because you cannot break out of these systems that are given to you. I think all of this lends itself to the fact that this system has no fucking longevity, and it's no fucking wonder it crumbles. Like,
Yeah.
it is so shaky. And I'm not saying capitalism is good, obviously. I'm not saying the feudal system is good, obviously, but the mad blend of systems that we're given means that it will crumble, because it is only sustaining itself to repeat what it was doing in year one against the rebellion.
Yeah.
There is no method for it to be sustaining as you get people who don't remember. And that's why I think that it's the 74th and 75th Hunger Games in these books which are so key for the rebellion, because you are just hitting the point of no remembrance. And I think that's a really key part of the books, is that you are just hitting the generation who have no memory, and also are starting to have no ancestors who have no memory of what happened, and therefore have no reason to keep in the party line, because this system cannot evolve and therefore is going to crumble. And it's something I always think of in the fact that, like, I have really mixed feelings about this, and I'm not going to be able to say this in the way that it's going to come across right now, and I'm flagging that now. My school,
Reminded this is a drunk podcast.
my school, and I think a lot of British schools are similar, but I don't know if this is a UK-wide thing, were very, very, very into is not the right word, but into the affairs around remembrance and remembering the two world wars and everything that comes with that in this country. You wear your poppy, you have Remembrance Sunday, there are certain poems that are read, you stand and you have silence for those remembrance things. I have extremely mixed feelings about the whole thing, which would take way too long to go into, but like this distillation of them is that I don't want to glamorize war. I don't think that we should be like, the wars were amazing, but I am still only so few generations back that I have family members affected by the war, and also regardless of that, these people still were indoctrinated to die in the front lines in order to save this country. And I think that the fact that they were indoctrinated still means I should give my memory and my silence and my peace to them, because whether they knew it or not, they were indoctrinated into like the war and everything like that. Okay, like that's how I think of it. But one thing that is always said in these like assemblies and things from like a very, very young age in this country is we will remember them, because we are hitting the generation now in our lifetimes where no one remembers World War One. We are well over 100 years past that, and we are hitting no one remembers World War Two. So these systems become more like, you have to remember, you have to say the poems, you have to do this. We have to teach these children why this happened. And I have real mixed feelings about it, because like, if you don't remember why wars happened and the mistakes that were made, history is bound to repeat itself. And I think that's something that Suzanne was trying to bring in with the fact it's 74 years, is that these people were bound to rebel because they are no longer held by the fear of that rebellion and the crackdown on that, but also that, as you said, the economies and the way it works, it can't grow anymore, and there's no one left to go, well, why are we stuck in this?
Yeah. On a lighter but related note, that reminds me, so I moved into this flat a year and a half ago. Ever since I moved in, there has been a sticker on one of my front windows that is a Remembrance Sunday sticker from, I can't think what number anniversary it would be, but like a round number anniversary. And the best thing is, it's from 1995, aka the year Hannah was born. A few months after I was born in 1994. And so it's been up there for 30 years. And the best thing about this is I moved in and I went, how the fuck has that been up there? This was a year and a half ago, for approaching 30 years. and no one's taken it down. And I also, yeah, I agree with your opinions. For me, like, the whole Poppy remembrance thing has morphed into something very, I'm going to say, Brexit.
I hate being co-opted into that.
It's become co-opted and twisted. So when I moved in, one of my first things was, how the fuck is that still up there? And I'm getting that down immediately, because it shouldn't be, but it's the wrong kind of look. It's very Brexity now. It's still up there. It's been 30 years. It's been a year and a half. And have I remembered to tear that down? No, I haven't. So now maybe I do get how that's been up there for 30 years, because have I remembered to remove it?
Yeah, you get used to things. You get used to things.
I don't want it there. But at this point, it's been 30 years. I'm kind of like, should I be the person to end this? 30 years for a sticker to be on a window. 30 years.
I haven't even spotted it. I haven't even noticed it.
I'll show you in a minute, because
right.
takeaway is almost here.
Oh my God, finish the point!
Okay, so that was about the economy whilst we're drunk. So Cinna remarks how despicable they must seem, and then immediately he dismisses it as no matter. Which I think the entire idea of there being these capital rebels is so interesting, because they kind of, it's kind of like the whole champagne socialism thing.
Yeah.
Yes, they care, and yes, they're incredible for being rebels, but they do get to dismiss these things as no matter. And, you know, maybe he's kind of also covering for himself of, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I'm just going to laugh it off like no matter. But I do think it's interesting.
Yeah.
The costume that they're given is a black unitard, with boots, cape, and a headpiece that is going to be set on fire. And Katniss is like fully preparing herself to be barbecued. We get our first mention of Katniss, the girl who was on fire. And then, yeah, we get them about to go off, and they're like joking with each other. I'll rip off your cape if you rip off mine. And what really made me sad was thinking about Katniss is like, oh, thank God I'm not scared of fire. Peter has been hit with a poker from a fire at least once. So we know probably many times. If it was once, it's going to be more times. I think Peter's scared of fire. I think we get evidence in this scene that Peter is terrified of fire. And he doesn't outright say it. And it breaks my fucking heart.
Yeah. Yeah, because these books are so centered on Katniss. And I appreciate that in the way that we always see Peter through her eyes, and therefore the audience is left guessing and assuming things about Peter a lot, but we don't get what he is actually like afraid of and loves and things like that. And yeah, I agree. I think he is probably scared as well.
Cinna asks them to hold hands, and they're like, what?
Disgusting.
We're back. We thought we were going for dinner, and then we got someone else's order, which confused me at first because it was so almost our order. There was like 2 items the same. So at first we were like, this is really, I don't know why, this is really boring. They fucked up our order and we're hungry.
But you know when you think it's food and it's not food. It's not your food, and we can't even eat it because there's only one savoury between the two of us, and it's enough.
Anyway, so
check out Katniss.
We are just as hungry as Katniss was, actually, when she was almost dying of starvation. This is us right now. So yeah, and at the end, when they finally like finish, Katniss realizes that she's been holding Peter's hand so hard, like there's no blood circulation. So she goes to let go. Goes, no, don't let go of me. Excuse me whilst I kill myself. Like this is one of the moments where I'm like, he's scared of fire. He 100%, you cannot convince me otherwise. This boy is scared of fire.
I wrote down they're the most memorable tributes. This is what they kind of think, and this is what everyone else is saying, because they were literally set on fire. That would make you pretty memorable, but also that they were the only two interacting with each other. That's become like a relatively rare thing for tributes to each other. And then my last note was that Katniss kisses Peter's, but in her mind, not as a gesture of we did this together, something like this. It's to play his own game.
And I had a note slightly before this. I can't remember what the full context there. I think they're having some kind of like banter or something. And there is a quote, "He gives me a smile that seems so genuinely sweet, with just the right touch of shyness, then unexpected warmth rushes through me." So when I first read these books, because I was just completely had written him out as a love interest because he was blonde. And even on I've reread it as an adult, but I haven't been doing that close a read, and also still whilst I'm like, yes, he's better than Gail, I'd still be like, he's blonde. So many people gush about him as a romantic lead, and I'm kind of like, yeah, like, he is lovely. He's still blonde. Like, this is my first time paying this much attention, and I'm like, oh my God. Like,
it was just to say that one of you, we are early on in this podcast, and one of you decided to fucking roast me. I'm assuming it's one of you that knows me because they've watched Goblet of Wine. I was saying in episode 1 or 2, I think Peter's the best male YA character ever. Do you think? And someone commented like, better than Will from Northern Lights series, and I was like, how dare you come at me like this? How dare you pit my babies against each other? I don't want to answer that accusation you've leveled at me. I'm not willing to. Fuck you.
I support this. I can't take credit for this. I think it was like a TikTok comment the other day saying like, you know how like Stephanie Mears has like rewritten Twilight from Edward's point of view?
Yeah, didn't believe that was real till end of last year. I thought that was a I didn't think it was. Yeah. I genuinely was like, it's not real, and then found out it was at the end of
So yeah, this comment was saying you could not do that with the Hunger Games, because whilst like Katniss's point of view is he's trying to trick me, it's a strategy, he's trying to kill me, Peter's would just be like, oh my God, she smiled at me today. Oh my God. Like, it would all just be him gushing about her, and she is so oblivious. I love it. It's so perfect. Like, just he gives me a smile that seems so genuinely sweet with just the right touch of shyness that an unexpected warmth rushes through me, and it's like girly sweet, girly pop. Like, when I first read this, like, I know I was young, like, I took Katniss's disinterest at face value.
Yeah,
because she is telling herself she is not interested. She's unaware of these feelings because she hasn't felt them before. And I just took that at face value of she's using him and it's a strategy. Now I reread it as an adult, I'm like, an unexpected warmth rushes through her. Oh, she is down bad.
She's been with him 3
does not realise. But even before then, like, she remarks, I think a bit later on, how she has also been keeping an eye on the boy with the bread after she's weirded out that he's been keeping an eye. Oh, it's so well done. It's so good. Yeah, she's then like, well, he must be trying to kill me. And yet she kisses his cheek. And I do want it from his point of view. Like, I don't want an exclusive book. I just want, like, I want the Hunger Games, but with, like, kind of a dotted line in there. Anytime something like this happens, I want Peter's point of view. She kissed me, oh my God.
I think this moment where she kisses his cheek, Harry Potter, the moment where Hermione kisses Ron's cheek for the first time, means that my reading taste in terms of like what I actually view as the most, oh my God, they did something, has never evolved past cheek kissing, because like once you get past that, it's a lot more like intentional, like both parties being involved. Cheek kissing, I'm like, oh my God, one of them did something, and I genuinely still feel 13 years old, and I'm like, oh, they've done something, oh my God, they've kissed a cheek.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, I don't know how to phrase this. It's not that I'm massively against smut or anything, but I don't particularly love smut because I'm so much more about like the build up than I am the actual act. So I won't say names, vague ACOTAR spoilers, but I'm not going to be specific. There is a scene in ACOTAR that is all about the build up, the teasing. And I find that 10 times more hotter than any of the shagging in ACOTAR. 10,000 times. The shagging actually makes me feel a little bit like uncomfortable. Maybe I have a weird prudish side to me. I don't think I do in general, but for some reason I do when it's reading books. I feel like I just become more conscious that another human being has written it. Yeah, I don't know. But the build up is so much better. And yeah, things like this, like cheek kissing, forehead kissing, hand on the leg, anything like that, I'm a sucker for. So much more. I find it cuter and also sexier than his quivering member thrust.
No.
Do you think I should become a smart author?
No. And that's the end of chapter 5.
His quivering member. Chapter ends. My prediction for doing this podcast is it's going to be me gushing about Peter way more than I ever would have thought.
Best character.
Even though he's blonde.
Peter, hero. He's perfect. Anyway, thanks. Thanks for coming with us. There were so many tangents. So
a couple.
A few.
A smidge. Cheers.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Drunk Girls Who Read, a podcast by Goblet of Wine Productions.
If you'd like to follow us around the internet, you can find our social media links in the description.
Or if you'd like to support us further, you can find us on Patreon, where you'll get access to bonus episodes and behind the scenes content.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye!